What is going on, miners, and welcome back to the Hobbyist Miner channel. We are back finally. It's been quite a hiatus, but we are back with a Meet the Miner, and it is my pleasure to introduce Yeti. What's going on, Yeti?
How you doing?
So Yeti, if you guys are unfamiliar with him, he has been in the crypto mining community for quite some time, and his name kind of became a little bit more popular, and he became a little bit more well-known after he helped uncover the LHR Unlocker scam more recently with Chump Change. So before we kind of jump into that, because I'm eager to kind of talk about that a little bit more later on, let's learn a little bit more about Yeti. So let's build the landscape, kind of build that profile around Yeti. Yeti, when exactly did you get into crypto mining?
I got into crypto really quite early, back to beginning of 2018.
Wow.
So yeah,
Okay.
quite a while ago.
Quite an OG. I mean, that's well before my time. And anybody like 2020 and after is like the newbies of the scene now. So that's definitely funny to hear. So back in 2018, what did crypto mining look like? I don't think a lot of our viewers understand like kind of what the scene looked like, the software that was out there, and what hardware or algorithms you were mining. So give us that rundown back in 2018.
So in 2018, I started seeing some new tech coming around that sort of seemed to be picking up a bit of traction. So come across obviously the main one, which was Bitcoin. At the time, I think it was valued at around $50 to $60, something like that, which is crazy thinking of what it's like
Insane.
now. But yeah, I started off with a little USB block eruptor style USB stick.
Okay.
That quickly grew to like 10 very
Was
quickly.
that kind of like what Seb Hesler did a video on more recently, where it was a USB with an ASIC chip with just kind of like a heatsink on it?
Pretty much, yeah,
Okay.
pretty
Okay.
much. And obviously it'd go into a powered USB hub, and there was very few pieces of software back then. I think we used a special one that came with the block eruptor. Um, I very quickly realized, however, that if I was going to make any sort of profit out of it, I had to go much, much bigger.
Okay.
So that's when I transitioned from USB block eruptors over to ASICs.
Oh, okay. So what was your first ASIC that kind of introduced
An
you into that world?
Antminer S1,
Yes. Wow.
and I
And
still own it today.
good for now. Do you own it today only because it is a prized piece? Like it's kind of one of those
Yes,
things you put
yes.
up on your shelf. Okay. Or a space heater. Space heater
Yeah,
if you
exactly. I've got all of my collection of ASICs actually still.
okay.
I've got an S1, an S3, an S5, and an S7. And then
Wow.
that's when I transitioned over from ASIC to a little bit of trading for a
Okay.
while I was working out what I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
then beginning of 2020, I started transitioning over to GPU mining.
Fantastic. So we'll get back to the GPU mining part because I'm really interested in that. So for folks that didn't know, back in 2018, you talked about software and such. There was no Hive OS. There was no web-based
Oh no.
configurations or
Oh God,
GUIs
no.
or anything. So what did that look like for you as a miner? I imagine the skill level was to get started was significantly higher back then because everything in my mind, based off of my limited knowledge, was batch files. Is that correct?
Pretty much.
Okay.
So it worked out that a bit like some of the newer crypto coins are doing, where they can't mine because they're not on a pool yet. They use private RPC style mining, where they're effectively their own hub, and then they mine to that, and then it relays onto the network. It was very much like that back in the day, where you'd have to use an RPC on your own network, mine to that, and then it would flow out to the network afterwards.
Interesting. So early on, you had ASICs after going with the USB style. Um, where did you mine with all these ASICs? Because the biggest challenge with ASICs, as many people run into, even with GPU mining too, is heat management and power distribution. So
Yeah.
did you do that at home, or did you have a dedicated space?
No, no, no. I actually was very fortunate. Our landlord was reasonable enough to allow me to run it at the house.
Oh wow.
And for a while, obviously, we came up with an arrangement that because of the higher electric, we would pay a little bit extra costs to our electric and so forth. So he was already on board. He
Wow.
made a very good profit margin out of that, to say the least.
So how did you deal with heat then? Because this isn't like, hey, I have 5 ASICs. I'm just going to stick them in a bedroom and I'm good to go. I
It
mean,
wasn't far off that. We had it in our, we built like a shelving unit for it in our hallway.
okay.
And even in the middle of winter, I was walking around in shorts and t-shirt.
So you did what most miners do is you build up and you just sweat it out pretty much and you
Pretty
deal with
much,
it.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's incredible. So, 2018, 2019 mining Bitcoin with ASICs, which is fantastic. It's always awesome to hear when people get into things early. So kind of flipping from then till now, what does your mining farm look like now? Are you still running ASICs? Have you swapped pretty significantly over to
Pretty much
GPUs?
converted over to full GPU now.
Okay.
I'm in the process because of power costs in the UK, transitioning over to a US farm.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
I'm in the process of selling off everything over here and then reinvesting that over in the States.
Okay, smart, smart. So what is your electric cost, if you don't mind me asking, there versus,
It's 27 pence a unit. So roughly near, I think that's about 37, 38
oh,
cents kilowatt hour. Yeah,
that
it's
is
pretty
that
brutal.
yeah, that's brutal, especially when I hear people that, I get a lot of questions from people regarding like, hey, I'm getting into mining. It's like, all right, well, what's your electric cost? And they give it to you like that. And you hate to kind of break their passion and dream before it's ever gotten started. But it's like, oh, like that's rough. And as a miner, you want to lower your expenses. So there's a lot of options out there, kind of like what you're doing, where you're going to some type of hosted solution. There's more bigger business hosted solutions out there, or you just trade it at the end of the day. Like if it's too much to operate, you just trade crypto. Which it sounds like at one point or another that was more of your focus. It sounds like, is that correct?
Sure, yeah. So after the big slump uh, with Bitcoin, where it dropped from like
Mhm.
30 odd $1,000 to like half its value in
Yep.
a space of a week, I decided that it'd probably be more sensible to trade rather than mine,
Hmm.
mainly because of the cost of the electric over the return. It just didn't make sense for how much the power of the ASICs were pulling.
Yep.
I think at one point I was pulling something like 4,000 watts constant, and there was no way that the amount of Bitcoin I was mining at the time
Yeah.
paid for any of it. So I decided that trading would be a little bit easier, pick my moments, make a little bit here and there, and then just sit on it and wait for it to sort of hopefully go back up, which 2020 it started to very
Yep.
much go up.
So, with the farm that you're kind of rebuilding, we'll say,
Yep.
over in the States, is that ASIC focused? Is that GPU focused,
No,
or is
that's
it a
solely
mismatch?
GPU. Solely
Solely GPU.
GPU.
Okay, awesome. So on the GPU topic, I'm always curious. You started to get into GPU mining. What was the first GPU you purchased for mining specifically?
That would be an Asus RX 570 8 gig.
Ah, 8 gig. Okay, great. So I imagine you were mining Ethereum then, with
Yeah,
that.
pretty
Got it.
much.
Okay. So, moving on a little bit here, we're kind of starting to kind of learn a little bit more about you. And where would you categorize yourself when it comes to your mining strategy? Are you a hodler? Are you a straight, hey, I sell every week? Where do you kind of fall with your crypto mining strategy? Because there's no playbook for this. There's no right or wrong answer. It's kind of whatever fits your lifestyle.
Sure. So I've gone through a bit of a transition over the years. At first, it was all about just hold as much of it as I could to sit on it and wait for it to go up.
Okay,
Then, when obviously it peaked, I thought maybe time to sell a little bit and get some money back.
smart.
I've always tried to pick my moments of when to sell some of the coins that I've mined, but primarily I hold on to it and for the moment because the ones that I hold on to are the ones that I believe that could make me a good profit in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely sounds like you kind of have more of that like investor mindset. It's like you're going to get in, mine it when you can, and then sell, when it's financially makes sense.
I think for the
Uh,
first 4 years, we didn't see anything out of it. All we did was return what we'd earned straight
yep.
back into it to buy more.
Yep. Yep. 100%. I mean, that's kind of a lot where I come from now. I started out as a hodler. I didn't sell for the first year on anything. And then now I am selling as needed to expand. I am
Yeah,
expanding GPUs. I'm buying some ASICs. I'm, expanding with my mining shed project. It's like I'm using, that to reinvest versus just cash out. So I don't even view it as cashing out because I'm just reinvesting is what I'm doing. Fantastic. So, as people can tell, you have an accent a little different from my accent in that regard. So, what for you? How is crypto mining really viewed in your country? And to give people kind of scale, China, it's banned. We've all learned that over the last year or so. Within the U.S., the government is supporting it quasi, really pushing for regulation to help, and I'm going to do air quotes here for people listening, quote, protect the American people. Where is it, kind of where and how is it viewed in your country versus what you're seeing in the rest of the world?
it's actually quite interesting because the last few months, there's been quite a lot of chatter around Bitcoin, cryptocurrency in general over here,
Yeah.
to the point where they're actually trying to make the UK a crypto hub, as they called
Wow.
it. So they're actually throwing massive incentives to blockchain companies, to miners as well, to point that they're actually working out now how to tax it effectively.
Hmm.
At the moment, I believe it's just a capital gains thing,
Right.
which they're happy to do for the moment.
Yep.
But I guarantee they'll figure something out. But yeah, they're actually thoroughly encouraging it over here, which is quite a turnaround from a couple of years ago, where they were adamant about that crypto was bad and that
Yep.
nobody would take it up and no business would want to use it. Suddenly now businesses are using it. Suddenly everyone's opinion changes.
Yeah, I think it also has a lot to do like in the US we look at it and it's like, man, our inflation is up almost 10%. The American dollar is pretty much it's backed by nothing. It's backed by more debt and credit. And so the American people are looking for something more stable. And what we run into is the fact of like the US is kind of about it, but they want it regulated and they kind of want their keep. But at the same time, they on the flip side of it, they see it blowing up, kind of like what you're saying with the UK, and these countries don't want to get left behind, But go back a few years ago, just like you said, it was viewed as it won't go anywhere, it's nothing. And now that it's here to stay, it is very much a either get on board or move aside because the world will continue to move around you. So I'm happy to hear that. It's very interesting to talk about like minor incentives and stuff like that. I'd be curious to see at some point if there is any incentive as like you as a home miner, like because you can't really get any credit or incentive or tax rebates on anything unless you're like registering as a crypto miner. And the whole point of like mining is the deregulation and the autonomy of it, correct? So what are your thoughts there on just, as a miner, how far you take it? Because I assume for you, you've been in the scene for so long, you kind of enjoy that kind of deregulation, autonomy, kind of behind the scenes type of mining.
Sure. I mean, I'm always one for paying what I need to pay in taxes.
Sure.
That's why I've got an accountant. I just hand the accountant everything. He deals with it. I don't even try to understand accounts. It's
Yep.
not good for me. So, um, you know, but at the end of the day, like you rightfully said, it's to get your money out. Most places are KYC now.
Yes. Oh,
So
it's
they're
blown
already
up.
going to know what you're at least liquidating, shall we say. They might not know what you've got in total, but they're definitely going
Yeah.
to know what you're liquidating.
Yeah.
So for us over here, I mean, I spoke to the accountant about it. The accountant was like, "Don't worry about it. We'll just put it down as a form of income and
Mhm.
expenses and everything like that." So I believe we're okay to write off up to nearly 20% of all of our bills here for the fact that I got it here and running.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an odd one at the moment, but I suspect give them another year, 18 months, I suspect most places will have some kind of basic tax rules around crypto, because
Mm.
they're already starting to come into effect in certain countries now.
Yeah, KYC I've really seen blown up, I'd say, over the last 3 months, just with my involvement on sites and stuff like that, and where I'm cashing out coin. And you're absolutely correct. And for those that don't understand it, as a miner, it's really funny when I got with my tax person and they're looking at it, and I used Coinbase to kind of be my exchange. I transfer it there, and then from there, going ahead and cashing it out and selling it, and discussing that with my tax people. It's so funny because when they look at it and they're like, "Wait, you bought it, it came in one day and was sold the next day." And I was like, and then I had to explain to them, like, I'm not buying crypto, I'm transferring it there and then selling it. And they're like, oh. You could tell, like, there's still that confusion
Yeah,
of the, like, okay. And that's the thing, you can KYC on the exchange all you want, but then there's a whole nother level when it comes down to reporting of actually the mining part of it.
oh, for
So
sure. And then obviously what you can and can't consider expenses as well.
yeah.
Like that got very complicated because how do you cover what is considered an expense, like your hardware, but what about like all the other bits? Like
Yep.
if you had a fire alarm system running over the top of your of the top of the miners to monitor it,
Yep.
for example,
Yep.
how does that work? Or if you have a CCTV system
Mhm.
pointed at it so you can keep an eye on it, does that consider an expense? And going through with the accounting, it was very tricky at the moment because, like you say, there's just nothing at the moment consistently that says this is an expense or this isn't an expense or this is an income or this isn't an income.
Yeah.
So APY, for example, the interest stuff that
Oh
is
yeah.
on certain coins, that caused me a problem with my accountant because it was like, well, you're earning other, crypto on top of the crypto you've already got.
Yeah.
So it caused a bit of a mess in my accounts this year for sure.
Yeah, for those of you guys not familiar, he's speaking more towards staking. So when you're taking what you are mining and you're staking it in order to earn interest, that APY on top of it. So not only is crypto confusing to start with when you're talking with an accountant, but now it's like, yeah, it's an investment. And now it's earning me more crypto. And then you have to figure out, well, how the heck do you report crypto on top of crypto? So you're not wrong. It's an exciting time to be in, but it's very confusing, especially as a crypto miner and content creator. We get a ton of questions from people, and the hard part is like there's no right answer. It all depends on where you live and what country you're in and the different tax laws. And oh man, it's the Wild West.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I mean, if you think
yeah.
about it, there's even between my tax reporting and your tax
Yeah.
reporting, there's a huge difference
Yeah.
just between the UK and the US. And normally, most of the time, we're pretty consistently
Yeah.
very similar.
Yeah.
But crypto seems to be the one thing that America and the UK have very different thoughts about.
Yes, I would agree. And we're actually seeing it in the US at a state level now, where some states are like full bore supporting it, like recognizing it. And then other states are kind of pushing for more regulation and uncertainty and still labeling it criminal. It's crazy. It's an exciting time. It's definitely an exciting time, but it's definitely super confusing. So, swapping gears a little bit, we'll talk a little bit about LHR here. So, even though we constantly keep feeling like LHR is on its way out, Ethereum gets pushed off more and more. So, jumping back to when LHR first hit the scene with NVIDIA, what were your thoughts on it then? Did you feel it was smart? It was strategic? Was it a marketing ploy? Kind of looking at it as a longtime miner, but also within the tech space, kind of where did your head lie when it came to that?
So funnily enough, I ended up with a 3060 V1. I ended up going and buying it on launch day.
Yeah,
So I ended up finding out the very hard way just what they did. But I mean, from a business perspective, it was very sensible. What they were trying to do, it just didn't come out, I think, the way that they wanted it to. What they
yeah,
were hoping for was that miners would go, oh, we don't want those cards because they're, nerfed and not working right, and they would go to the gamers. But what actually turned around was we all turned around and said, it's a GPU, it's profitable, therefore we're going to run it anyway.
give it to me.
And like, it didn't really take very long before we started seeing the very first sort of unlocks. Like the LOL miner was the first one to get a big jump out of it. I think
Yeah,
it went from like 30 mega hash to like 35 mega hash in one jump.
big win.
Um, and even today, we're still seeing refinements to that LHR where, you know, a V1, you're now looking at like an 82% unlock, and a V2 LHR, you're looking at maybe 79.5 to 80%, depending on Silicon Lottery. But I mean, that's still some jump from where we first started with LHR for sure.
Yeah, I know. I've always viewed the LHR as a marketing ploy to make gamers happy. That's kind of what NVIDIA did. Like, hey, we got your backs, no worries. The challenge was, I feel, for miners was like we were so hungry for GPUs that we looked past the LHR and just and bought them up anyway. Because there was just it was so the demand and supply was just so off kilter, to say the least. So before we talk about kind of the LHR unlocker that you kind of worked with Chump Change on, I thought it'd be good. You definitely have a technical background, and without exposing yourself too much, kind of what do you do for a living that has provided you that background?
So basically, I'm a developer, full stack
Okay.
development. I do everything from, you know, the ground up, effectively. My company that I part own with my business partner, we do digital signage on a large scale. So think side of
Wow.
buildings and stuff like that.
Okay.
We're recently in the process of rolling out some rather large clients at the moment. You'll probably see some of our tech coming in the next year.
Awesome.
Um, I've shown a few people some of the tech over the years that
Mm.
we've been doing, and yeah, the States has been somewhere where we haven't really tried to get into yet. However, this year we made a concerted effort, so I'm probably going
Congrats.
to be to and from America quite a lot this year.
Well, you got plenty of friends over here. Don't you worry. So with that in mind, kind of understanding your background and kind of LHR, kind of walk us through your involvement with this kind of LHR unlocker that came out, because I know it kind of hit the mining community by storm some time back. Everybody was like, "Holy cow! Like this is amazing." What were your initial thoughts on it before you actually got a chance to kind of peek under the hood and actually look at things?
I can actually remember the day. It was quite funny. I was on the way home, and Chump Change rang me,
Mm,
and he said, "Oh, this unlocker's come out. I'm about to go live. Do you want to take a look at it with me from a technical aspect?" I was like, "Okay, well, give me a little bit of time to get myself prepared with it. Let me have a
yeah,
deep dive of it before we actually go live." And yeah, I was quite shocked with what I found at first. I was like, "Yeah, if we're gonna do this, we need to do it properly."
yeah,
So that was then, you know, put it on a VM, give everyone the availability to see what's actually happening,
yeah.
and then, you know, diagnose from there. It's probably one of the most enjoyable things I've done in a long while, to be fair. Like stripping down that code, explaining what it does and or what it didn't do, shall we say, and you know, theorizing what it could potentially have done if it had worked from end to end.
Yeah, I mean, it was super interesting. It kind of had the entire scene watching by just to kind of see, and then I think everybody kind of had that gut feeling from moment one of like, this is probably not legitimate. And then as time went on, we kind of were able to see, once it was discovered, like this isn't doing anything that we expected. It was a lot of fun from the outside looking in to see like how far you could take it to be exposing what exactly it did, what was going on, um, which is awesome. I mean, kudos to you and Chup Change for continuing that live stream and providing that context. Um, was there at any time did you have an inkling of like, oh, this could be fully legitimate? Like we have something here, or the whole time were you just like no, this is totally a scam and let's work through it?
I'm always one to be an optimist at the best of
Okay.
times, but given how long and hard all the miner, like the big mining software, had tried to do this LHR,
Yeah.
the fact that somebody that was completely unknown at the time hadn't even spoken about it so much as online or even, you know, or anywhere, to be quite honest, we couldn't really
Yeah.
find anything in his past from like a development standpoint.
Yeah.
Um, I just thought it was a little bit suspect straight away. However, there are people that don't like to announce something until it's, fully ready.
Yeah. I can see that.
So I gave it a little bit of a chance, and that's why we spun up the VM to make sure we were all safe. I spoke to the data center where my servers live and warned them that I was going to effectively infect myself intentionally, for the sake of a security test and so forth. So they were all on standby with me, and I
Nice.
had the backing of pretty much everyone at the data center to do it as well, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It really is, and you were definitely the right man for the job with the way that it turned out. And with that in mind, kind of looking at T-Rex Miner recently with some of their changes, and Law Miner more recently, it seems like the unlocker has plateaued. Like we can only get so far. Would you believe that statement's true, or do you believe that eventually we would be able to get to 100%, or do you think that's unrealistic?
So I recently watched the interview with Seb and
Yeah,
the,
really good.
the developer at LOL Miner, right?
Yeah.
And the way that he described it working, where they do high workload, low workload, high workload, low workload, makes a lot of sense. But there is always going to be a limit to how hard you can push it for the duration, and then how low do you need to drop it in order to trick the system to think that it's not mining. And you're right. I think that probably the best they're going to see out of that is probably 85%, give or
Very
take.
close to where we are then,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And the developer at LOL said like they could disable LHR with a driver update, even though the hardware has been tweaked with an LHR, piece on the board for
Yep.
V2s.
Yeah.
The driver still fundamentally drives that card. So if they write it out of the driver, then even if it's an LHR card, it's not going to activate that part of the card effectively. So all they would be doing is effectively circumventing their own LHR.
Yeah, as long as it has that digital signature from NVIDIA, then we're good to go. And that would work as expected. Yeah, I thought that interview was actually really interesting. I've given Seb lots of kudos for it. It was kind of diving into that world, which I think is right up your avenue of kind of the
Oh my
more
god!
technical side.
Trust me, that was definitely a video that was aimed at people like me who want to really deep dive and understand how the LHR unlocker works.
Mhm.
I don't know if you heard on the grapevine, but I trialed a version of an unlocker that I was trying for my
Mm,
V1, because obviously V1 was all driver, not
yeah,
anything on the PCB. And
correct.
I trialed it. I managed to get somewhere with it, but every time that it would run for more than maybe 40 minutes, it would just crash the
Oh,
card out and hard lock the card. And I was like, okay, maybe I've gone too far with removing stuff. So
yeah,
backed off. But at the end of the day, it was so unstable that, because what I was doing is trying to trick the digital signature check to
okay.
basically fool it to think that my own digital signature was legitimate, and then to carry on the process. But they've got something in their driver, and I couldn't find it, that obviously verifies somehow that that signature is legitimate, even if I'm trying to spoof it.
Yeah, I mean, that kudos to you. I mean, that is a whole nother level. I did enjoy the interview and just kind of learning more from an outside perspective of really understanding kind of like how LHR works and the multiple facets of it. I think a lot of that the community doesn't see. They just see LHR and non-LHR, and that's it. Like that's all they understand. So fantastic topic, honestly. I mean, I loved learning about it, even with watching the live stream with you and Chump Change. Super enjoyable. So we'll swap gears here. A few last questions for us today. So with GPU prices right now, they've dipped pretty hard, especially in the US. Do you feel this is the new norm, or do you think this is just a bubble?
I'd like it to be the new norm, very much so. I do think though that it'll probably be waves where loads of GPUs get picked up by miners. Suddenly that'll push the price up a little bit. They'll then plateau for a little bit and come hopefully back down again.
Yeah.
I can't see them maybe spike into the what we were seeing back in September to November-ish time.
Yeah.
That was probably
Crazy.
the most brutal that I've ever seen GPU prices. They were crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I just picked up 2 cards today, and they were probably 40% less than what they were before, which is
Oh yeah, that's
fantastic.
what I'm seeing, at least 40%. I
Yep.
mean, in the secondhand market, you can see even bigger
Yep.
discounts at the moment. I was looking at a 3060 Ti the other day for less than the equivalent of $400.
That's insane. That's awesome.
No.
Yeah, I mean, the secondhand market is definitely feeling it. Like, if you're shopping for GPUs right now, I recommend people don't get them from online retailers. Look at your secondhand markets, because not only has the price dip effect there, because people naturally go, okay, what is it new? What can I get at secondhand? But then secondhand, you have the ability to negotiate. So I always negotiate like $100 less on secondhand, like just to start with, which is always nice. So keeping GPU prices in mind and the dip in mind, you've been in the scene since 2018, so you kind of seen these ebb and flows. Do you think that right now we are in a bear market, or is this the new norm of a bear market? It won't be a repeat offender from past years, or do you think this truly isn't the biggest dip yet?
That's a very good question. I mean, when I saw the first dip New Year, when we were
Hmm.
just starting to see it dip, I thought, oh, here we come, here we go, here it
Yeah,
comes, sort of thing, drop off a cliff, lose like 60% of its value, and then slowly work its way up. But however, this one, it dropped, but then sort of stabilized and stayed very consistent for about a week, which threw me a little bit. It's almost like we're somewhere in between a bear market and a bull market.
yeah,
Like there's days where it's very good, and then there's the days where it's dropped off 5%. But if it stays like this, I mean that would be great for us miners
yeah,
personally. For me, it would be great as well because obviously at the moment I'm still running some of my UK stuff, so
yeah.
I don't want to eat into the profit margin too much. So yeah, I'm hoping that this is the new norm, but I could equally see it going down a little bit more before we see that turnaround, and then it's starting to slowly rise back up.
Yeah, there's a few people I've chatted with that have felt that this is kind of the new norm when it comes to even a slight or small bear market or bubble, because of the fact of cryptocurrencies becoming mainstream now, versus in the past it wasn't mainstream. So Bitcoin wasn't a household name years ago where it is today. So now it is less impactful. And as you said, it dipped a decent amount, but nothing crazy. And now it's kind of recovered and stabilized and plateaued out. So I always enjoy asking that question, because there's no right or wrong answer. It's all speculative. It's like, yeah, kind of think so, but not sure. But somebody who's been in the scene for quite some time, like yourself, I always enjoy seeing, kind of your perspective. So a few other random questions here we'll wrap up on. So is there a mining algorithm that you wish, or coin that you wish got more attention, that deserved a little bit more attention, that doesn't seem to?
Um, I mean, up until recently, with Flux getting a big boost in popularity, I would have said Flux.
Yeah.
They had a very good idea. Their white paper's very, extensive. I don't know if you've looked at the Flux white paper. I mean, it's very extensive, and what they're trying to achieve and what they're trying to do makes a lot of sense. Now it's starting to get a bit of traction with them doing nodes
Yeah.
and
Wow.
things like that. So I mean, that's very interesting for me. The other one that I've obviously been mining myself is on the other side is Ergo. I found that because obviously it's less intensive on my cards,
Yep.
when it's too hot in the day, I just flick over to Ergo, keep mining, at least mine something so that I get that return rather than powering down my entire rigs.
I used to do something like that a year ago, back with switching with Ergo and Ravencoin. Ergo during the day, Ravencoin at night, just based off of the temperature flux, especially in the summertime. Yeah, Ergo's always been that like algorithm out there that has always been like, oh man, it's so efficient. Like the fact that it's not as intensive. I actually am hoping that we see a return for Ergo. I know Ergo was up there around 16, 17, $18. I think it's down, don't quote me, about 5 or 6. So it's dropped significantly, about a third. So I'm hoping that we see that kind of pop again, especially with Ethereum's proof of stake eventually on the horizon, which would be great. I
Oh,
mean,
that's a whole nother subject. That
yeah, yeah, which actually leads us into that. Let's talk a little bit about the Ethereum merge. So, let's throw it out there, speculative purely. When do you think this is actually going to happen? Do you think it's going to be a 2020 thing, or are we continuing to kick that can down the road?
Oh, I was having a really big conversation with Mad Electron
Yeah,
D miners and Tains and all the rest of them
great
about,
group of guys.
yeah, about all of this, and saying that, I've been around a while now and I've heard this, oh, Ethereum's going proof of stake for a long, long time. However, they are the closest they've ever been,
Mhm.
shall we say. That's
Yeah,
the best way to put it. They are the closest they've ever been right now. And as a developer, I can understand why the delays.
yeah, sure.
You're talking a lot of money, a lot of people's time and investment, a lot of hardware costs. If they make one mess up, that is Ethereum done.
Yeah,
That
you're
would
right.
kill Ethereum overnight. So unless they're like, as close to 100% as they can be to do the switch, I can see them taking, another 6 months if they had to. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see something around August, September. They are very close, but again, it all depends on if they're happy enough to pull that trigger, because that's a lot of money they're talking about.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. So on that note, you said September, October. So let's say September 1st, Ethereum merge, happens. It's scheduled out. We know it's coming. It's not like one day on, one day off. What do you think hypothetically that landscape looks like day one? Day one, hour one, minute one. What do you
Wow,
think
that's gonna be all the big miners in panic mode.
yeah,
All the big mining farms in panic mode, switching, everything to everything to see which is more profitable.
yeah.
I could also see a lot of farms bouncing around algorithms for maybe
Hmm.
the first month.
Yeah.
So they'll see whichever's the best and profitable. They'll push everything over. Then suddenly another algorithm will be more profitable, so they'll switch it over to that. I could see that for a while being the case where, 4 or 5 algorithms might be bouncing around being the most profitable.
Which is, I think, good. I think, that competition is fantastic, especially for us miners. We've been so locked into like, okay, we mine Ethereum and then we kind of mine these other ones here and there. I'd be thrilled to see kind of a more 3 or 4 or 5 different algorithms that we're keeping our focus on and kind of, swapping around. I think also that first few days or few weeks, I think there's going to be a lot of money made. There's going to be a lot of these random balloons where there's like a bull rush all of a sudden. Oh, everyone's on Flux. Okay, so people are swapping and there's some money to be made. And then too much hash rates on there and now profitability is low. And so it's kind of buying and selling and swapping. And it's going to be nutty. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be the Wild West. I am not as reliant on my crypto income. So I'm excited versus somebody who pays their bills weekly or monthly, I think is probably super concerned, and I would be as well.
Sure, I was actually speaking with a friend who got into crypto mining back in August last year,
Okay.
and she's been mining now, 6, 7 months, and all right, she's made her money back, but
Yeah.
she's equally, worried about what that might be for her,
Yeah.
because she's invested all this money, time. She has to pay for where it's stored and the electric for that and everything. And as she rightfully said, that her rig is, there's only a finite amount of profit in it for her.
Yes.
So for her, it needs to stay like that. And I guess that, like you just said, hopping around, I suspect is going to happen. The first few days, I suspect the first week actually
Yeah.
will be very profitable to certain people if they're sensible.
Yeah.
Um, that's something that I've been looking into personally, where I'm going to take my cards, what algorithm, should I look at splitting some of my ideas, rather than mining all to one place, to split it up to go, maybe 2 rigs to one place, 2 rigs to another place, bit of spec mining in the middle, just
Yeah.
in case, like you say, those balloons where something might go up by 10, 15%, and I've got a little stockpile of it, so I can clear that out, and then that can, either be reinvested into something else or,
Yeah.
you know, pay towards some of the costs.
Yeah, it's very smart, very exciting. The uncertainty, I think, is what makes it exciting for me. For others, it may be very stressful. So last few questions here. I love asking this question. How do you explain to kind of friends and family that you're a crypto miner?
Oh, that's a really good one because there's some brilliant stories around that. So when I first got into crypto, everyone called me crazy. Like
100%.
literally everyone was calling me crazy to do it. You know, why are you spending this much on hardware when it's not even worth this much? How are
Mhm.
you going to get paid? And everything like that. We've been afforded a very nice life due to some crypto that I mined back early. So, you know, I can quite happily show people what crypto's done for me because I've
Yeah.
got physical property. I was, you know, very fortunate enough to be able to buy my house.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Uh,
said you got into Bitcoin very early on. I mean, $50, $60 in 2018, and talk about a return on investment.
yeah, that was the awkward one with the accountant because trying to explain to him I bought something at 50 and sold it for I think it was like 19 at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a little shocked.
it's a huge win. I mean, and that's the hard part. I mean, even when you sold some at 19, it's like you don't know if it was going to go back down to cents or if it was going to go to 69,000. Like, who would have thought? So, yeah, it's crypto mining is always
It's
a
a
hard one
little
to
easier to
explain.
explain to people these days that I'm into
Yes.
crypto mining,
Yep.
because obviously it's a little bit more mainstream these days, but there's
Yep.
still people who call me very, you know, crazy for doing it
Mhm.
and stuff like that. But
It's so
they're
untraditional,
open.
and it's so new to mainstream that people, one, it's hard for them to grasp the concept if they're not from a technical background, and two, it's hard for people to put uh, see themselves putting their money into an investment that is so has so much uncertainty and so much lack thereof of regulation. So yeah, I get the same thing until you can really show people tangibly, like, hey, this is what it paid for, and you're like, really? Like, holy cow, so it is real, like it's almost like people think it's like a fantasy. So last two questions here. Let's kind of look ahead, dream a little bit, looking down the road. What do you envision your mining farm to look like in 5 years?
Well, that's a really good question. So I'd like to build up my crypto farm over in the States. That's
Okay,
something that's ongoing right now.
awesome.
Depending on electric availability and space and so forth. I'd like to try and get to where I am at the moment in the UK, bare minimum. How I do that or where I do that is still up for debate at the moment.
Yeah,
But I will figure that one out. But yeah, the plan is to get at least what I've got now. And then probably within 5 years, I suppose I'd like to have something, you know, that's earning a good passive income for myself. Like you said, you don't rely on your crypto. I'm very much the same.
yeah,
I've not had to rely on my crypto. That's an extra for me.
yep. It's good fun money. It's good investment money. And for me, when I continue to work my career, still in my job. I will continue even with YouTube and everything like that. It adds that stability, and then with crypto, it makes it significantly more fun when it's kind of that side hustle, that side investment, that side dream versus like a, oh my gosh, what is the price now, and do I have enough to pay my mortgage? Like, that's, holy cow. I do not
Yeah,
I
I
do
wouldn't
not
like that. I
I
wouldn't
don't
like.
wish that upon anybody. It's just, and I know a lot of people on my Discord, they talk about it, who have quit their jobs and they do this full time. And it's like, wow, that's got to be stressful, like totally
Very.
stressful. So, awesome. So, last question of the day, we'll wrap things up. Why does Yeti mine? Why do you crypto mine? Why did you start and why do you continue to do it?
Uh, so I always started because I believed in what blockchain was about. The idea of a decentralized network being able to, you know, have that anonymity, shall we say, between. So if I paid you something, why should anyone else know effectively
Yeah.
who I've paid, why I've paid them, or anything? And that's for me how it started. the earning a little bit of money on the side was a pleasant bonus when I first started, because
A little bit, a little
like I
bit.
said, you know, I didn't really have to do crypto. I was already working. I was earning a good wage. For me, it was fun. It was a
Yeah,
hobby. It
yeah,
still is to this day, fun and a hobby. I mean, I'm in the process of developing some software that effectively will make life a lot simpler. And again, that was done because it was, you know, enjoyable to do. Actually, it's been quite challenging. It's you know, been quite rewarding as well, because pushing myself to where I can't figure it out
yeah.
is a good thing in development, because that pushes me on as a developer. So
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I still mine to this day because I still believe in blockchain technology.
Yeah, smart.
And you know, and the money is still a hobby.
Mhm.
Yes, I make good money. Could I make a living off of it? I suspect just about.
Yeah,
If I really wanted to, would I want to put that much stress on my shoulders? Probably not. You know,
agreed.
like, it's stressful enough making sure that I've got money every month to pay the bills, let alone having to worry that I've then also got to pay for the mining farm, and you know, in two different countries at the moment. So that makes it logistically a nightmare at the moment. But I'll get it all sorted out. And yeah, like I say, I'm going to keep mining regardless. Even if it takes a tumble again, I'll be in for the ride again for
Yeah.
sure. It'll just be a case of get everything as efficient as I can, hodl it all until the next bull run, and profit off of it then.
That's awesome. It's such a good mindset to have, and I can see you're passionate about it, which I fall into that same boat. Definitely. That's why like I've sold very few of my mining rigs or cars, because it's like as long as it's still profitable in one way or another, even small, awesome. Because it's not something that I'm relying on day to day. Well, Yeti, it's been a blast. We are at 50 minutes. I can't believe it's gone by that quickly.
Has it
Um,
really? Oh wow.
I know, right? So, what we'll do though, folks, is Yeti has kind of brought me in on some of his project that he's working on, which I think is going to blow the crypto mining scene away with some of the things that he's producing. So down the road, when he's ready to go ahead and share it with the community, we'll have him on. We'll talk about it. We'll look at it. We'll discuss it. We'll promote it, and I'd love to share that with you guys when you're ready, of course, Yeti. But other than that, Yeti, is there anywhere people can get in contact with you or follow you? Is there social media, a
Sure.
YouTube, anything? What's best?
I'm over at Misfit Mining Discord, um,
Nice.
over with Chump and everyone over there. I don't really do much social media.
Good for
Um,
you. Good for you.
I try and stay off social media.
Perfect. Well, what I'll do is I'll put a link down below to the Misfit Mining community. I'm in there all the time, especially when I'm gaming with those guys. But there's always some great conversation going on over there with Chump Change and the rest of the Misfit Mining crew. Other than that, guys, thank you guys very much for joining me today. Thank you, Yeti, for bringing such
Thank you
amazing
for having me.
insight to the community. I hope to do more of these Meet the Miners in the future and bring them more often for you guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And finally, don't forget to subscribe. Take care.